Nikki, the issue of transgender teens has seemingly become a national obsession. Politicians and activists, doctors and parents battling over everything from participation in school sports to bathroom rules and access to sometimes irreversible medical treatment.
But one voice that's been largely missing from this contentious debate is that of the teens themselves, until now.
Yeah, CBS 12 News I-Team investigator Danielle Duras sat down with two self-described transgender teens to get their perspective on the controversy surrounding their struggles to simply be themselves. Danielle.
Well, Matt and Sam, these two teenagers reached out to me, born female, now using their chosen names of Dean and Elliot. They are upset about what is happening in Tallahassee and around the country right now, and they want to be heard. Their parents brought them to our interview.
We are only trying to live our lives and to be treated as like we're not less than you.
We're humans just like anybody else.
Elliot, 16, and Dean, 17, say they're old enough to know who they are on the inside. But under Florida law, they're still too young to undergo medical treatments to make their bodies match who they feel themselves to be. Dean was about to start hormone replacement therapy when the rules changed.
I was planning on, as soon as possible, starting my transition because it would help me feel more comfortable in my body. I definitely have experienced a lot of the adverse effects of gender dysphoria in all three aspects: social, physical, and mental.
To people who say you're too young to make these decisions, what do you say to that? Are you too young?
I'm the only one who's been inside my body, and I'm the only one who knows how I feel. These changes that I can make now to make myself feel more comfortable are important, because at the rate that gender dysphoria destroys people's mental health, if we don't start to get support, we might not be around long enough to know when we're older.
Elliot didn't have immediate plans to transition, but thinks people under the age of 18 ought to have the option available.
I can't speak for anybody else, but me personally, I wouldn't actually get surgery until I was over the age of 18, but I feel like you should be able to begin your medical transition and be able to go on puberty blockers.
Could you ever foresee a day down the road where you thought, I made a mistake and I'm not transgender after all? Do you think that that's possible to feel that way in the future?
Definitely. It can be possible, but also it shouldn't be made a big deal. Like, it would be harder to transition back maybe, but even if you transition back, there still shouldn't be anything wrong with it, because that's the decision that you made. You were like trying to find yourself and try to find what you're comfortable with, and there should be nothing wrong with that.
Both tell me they knew from a very young age they were different, long before they ever heard the word transgender.
Around 11, 12 is when I realized I wasn't. I kind of always knew, but I didn't know what the term was until 6th grade.
Can you describe to me what the feeling that you always had was?
I never felt like a woman. I still don't feel like a woman. I never really felt like anything. I always felt out of place, and I always felt like I wasn't welcome anywhere because I wasn't girly or I wasn't a girl. I was considered a tomboy when I was younger. And then when I learned what being transgender meant and what it meant for me, it was really important to me because I finally figured out who I was.
I didn't have an exact word for it, but playing house, I would always be the dad, and I would always want to go to the little boys section of Target. So I think I knew for sure that my gender wasn't like everybody else's as I entered 5th to 6th grade.
For people who say this is just a phase, this is just a trend right now, that you don't really know if you're transgender, what is your response to that?
They've never been in my body. They've never seen the joy that my mom and dad see when I put on a suit, when I first wore a tie, when I first cut my hair. They don't get to see that happiness, that joy that came when this changed my life. People look at photos of me and say I look happier now, that I'm more free now, that I'm more open. It changed my life.
Dean and Elliot met at the Compass LGBTQ Community Center in Lake Worth Beach. They say the acceptance they find there can be hard to come by in everyday life. And both worry this wave of new laws grappling with issues involving transgender kids will only make things more difficult.
I'm already getting bullied as it is in school. So with this new laws passed, it just gives people who are transphobic or anybody that wants a transition, it's made much harder now.
What kind of message would you say that they're sending trans youth?
That I'm a monster and that they're trying to protect children, but only the children that they see fit their perspective. They don't see me as a person they see me as just something to be afraid of. Because at the end of the day, these bans are against children. We are still children. Imagine how we're feeling being treated like we're monsters.
And that's the end of our story. No analysis, no politics, just their feelings, their experiences, and their words. It can be easy to forget when we argue fiercely over what's best for our kids that they hear us. And no matter what your politics, no child should feel like a monster for being themselves.
Outgoing Chief Sparrow says goodbye to the department after a decorated career and says he's at peace with his decision to say farewell.
You know, when you hit the send button on that email, you take a deep breath, and once the decision was made, I knew I was in the right place with it.
St. Lucie County Fire Chief Nate Sparrow proud of his career, but says he's ready to make way for new leadership.
Within the next 8 months, we'll be developing a brand new strategic plan. They're in the middle of contract negotiations. It's actually a good time for somebody else to take the reins. I think it'd be patently unfair for me to work another year, do all those things, and then just hand it off and say good luck with that.
Back in 2011, Sparrow had the honor of being named Florida's Professional Firefighter of the Year. His career setting the standard for his longtime assistant and successor, Jeff Lee.
Chief Sparrow is definitely a mentor of mine. We go back a long ways. Pretty much my entire career, I've known him in one capacity or other. My entire career was not, I wouldn't say in his footsteps, because we definitely cut our own path, but I learned as much from him as I have myself.
Of all of the achievements throughout his career, Chief Sparrow pinpointed one moment he remembers most: saving a man's life, giving his family more time to say goodbye.
I did have a save in a parking lot that will always stick out in my mind, where a guy collapsed right in front of me, and I had no equipment. Basically, all I had was my uniform and just went to work like I was trained to do. And, you know, that was a big memory. You know, the crew got there, they got pulses back. So that was a big memory for me.
Lee will become the new chief on Monday, and a change of command ceremony will take place on Tuesday.
We're getting a closer look at some of the damage from Saturday's tornado, packing winds of more than 100 miles per hour. CBS 12's Al Pafli is in Palm Beach Gardens on Ellison-Wilson Road, just south of PGA Boulevard.
This scene right behind me is eye-popping. You can see how the tornado picked up that car like it was a toy, threw it up into the air, and it landed nose down. This shows just how dangerous and how powerful the tornado was.
Holy cow. As the tornado took aim at Palm Beach Gardens and North Palm Beach, people got video of it with their cell phones, watching in disbelief as the tornado plowed through the area, packing fierce winds and torrents of rain.
It was probably the scariest thing I've ever been through.
Claire Smith, who lives in a two-story townhouse at Sandalwood Estates in Palm Beach Gardens, can't believe that her home is still standing.
When the trees started to whip and all the stuff started blowing around and everything on my patio went flying, I knew that that was a tornado.
The tornado toppled huge trees in the Sandalwood Estates neighborhood, and crews with wood chippers wasted no time getting into the neighborhood to get rid of the tree limbs and branches. The tornado sent trees crashing down on top of cars.
I was upstairs cleaning, and all of a sudden I just heard this noise, and I looked out the window, and I mean, it was just coming. I mean, it was just unbelievable.
At the HMY Yacht Club in Palm Beach Gardens, the tornado swept through and damaged yachts, picking them up and tossing them in the air. The National Weather Service says the tornado packed 130-mile-per-hour winds, carved a path more than 2.5 miles long, and a path more than 3 football fields wide. It was on the ground for about 11 minutes.
What we've seen has been destruction, but we've actually been very lucky that no lives were lost, and from all the reports I've heard, only one person was taken away by ambulance.
The tornado damage drew onlookers who came to take pictures, some stunned by what the tornado left behind.
Don't see that every day. It's a mess.
The tornado was on the ground just for a few minutes, but it's clear the cleanup and repairs will take weeks, maybe even longer.